Hello everybody, and welcome to the first ever official, unofficial Christmas episode of the Fandom Show. On our last episode, we took a look at the origins of Batman from his beginnings in 1939 in the comic books all the way up to the 1989 movie starring Michael Keaton and directed by Tim Burton. My original plan was to do the first Batman episode in 2 segments, but I've actually decided to change that to 3 so I can squeeze in this little mini episode for the holidays and give you guys a little bit of something before the new year. So we left off in the last episode with the 1989 movie of Batman. So what we're going to do on this episode is we're actually going to look at the next 3 Batman movies that followed in the 1990s. So we're going to start off, of course, with Batman Returns.
One of the more underrated Batman movies, in my opinion.
Now, this one was directed by Tim Burton, again starred Michael Keaton as Batman. It was actually one of the few sequels that Tim Burton has ever directed. And he didn't feel comfortable doing a direct sequel as in a story that would immediately follow the events of the 1989 movie, so they basically cobbled together a separate story that was set in the same universe. In the original script, there was actually going to be the debut of Robin, who, if you can believe it or not, was set to be played by Marlon Wayans.
Yes, that Marlon Wayans. Can you imagine this dude as Robin?
Now, of course, we all know that didn't happen. Batman Returns went on to be well received critically, but only made $267 million, over 150 less than its predecessor. From there, the Batman series went through a bit of an unfortunate transition. Batman Returns was followed by 1995's Batman Forever.
I know it wasn't that great, but we gotta talk about it.
Michael Keaton did not return as Batman despite being offered $15 million to do so. His main stated reasons for not wanting to do it was that he didn't like the direction the series was headed.
Gee, I really have no idea why he felt that way.
Tim Burton also declined to come back and direct another sequel, but did stay on as a producer. This would be the last Batman film that he was ever involved with. Of course, this movie featured Val Kilmer as Batman, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, and Jim Carrey as the Riddler. This was in fact the only film of Jim Carrey's super hot career in the late 1990s in which he was not billed as the top actor. Another interesting story about Carrey is that the role of the Riddler was initially offered to Robin Williams, and he turned the studio down because of an incident that happened during the first Batman movie.
I just want to go on record as saying that Robin Williams would have made an amazing Joker or Riddler. It's a real shame this didn't happen.
What had happened was they had offered Williams the role of the Joker after Jack Nicholson had wavered on committing to it. Williams actually accepted it, so the studio then went to Jack Nicholson and said, "Hey, Robin Williams is going to be the Joker unless you want to do it." Nicholson eventually decided that he wanted to do it, and Williams was cast aside. He was very upset about this to the point that he said he would never do another movie with Warner Brothers. Batman Forever did marginally better than its predecessor, grossing $366 million and was the top domestic movie of the summer of 1995. It did gain a mixed critical reaction, and the director duties on this film fell to one Joel Schumacher, who in some ways is a persona non grata in the Batman fandom. The reason is that Schumacher helmed this movie, which took Batman away from its darker roots as explored in the Burton films and turned it into something that was more of a Saturday morning cartoon come to life, and that didn't sit well with an awful lot of people.
And there were video games. Really awful video games.
But, buoyed by some decent special effects and a rather solid soundtrack, Batman Forever did manage to be at least a commercial success, but not a critical one. Another interesting thing about Batman Forever is Batman creator Bob Kane is on record as saying that he felt that Val Kilmer's portrayal of Bruce Wayne / Batman in this movie was the closest to how he originally envisioned the character. Now, do keep in mind that Bob Kane died in 1998 and would not have lived to have seen the Christian Bale portrayal which occurred in the Nolan Batman trilogy of the early to mid-2000s. From Batman Forever, we went to 1997 and the most notoriously bad Batman movie of all time, Batman and Robin.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Oh yes, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze delivering all the bad ice puns you can handle. We have batsuits with nipples, credit cards that don't ever expire, and a Batgirl that just kinda seems tacked on. This movie was so bad that Joel Schumacher has apologized to audiences for it multiple times over, and George Clooney has been known to refund people who tell him personally how bad the movie was. Now, Joel Schumacher who's basically been pilloried for this movie, actually, like I said, he apologized for it, but he wanted to go with a much darker film more akin to the original Batman stories. Warner Brothers said no, and they insisted that he create something that was more key to selling toys, merchandise, video games, and everything else under the sun. The movie Batman and Robin is generally considered one of the worst films of all time. Not just Batman movies, but the worst films of all time, and currently holds a ranking on IMDb of 1.5 out of 10.
Batman and Robin is so bad that it regularly ranks ahead of Plan 9 from Outer Space on the list of bad movies, and Plan 9 from Outer Space is considered by many to be the worst movie of all time.
Batman and Robin will go on to make only $238 million, which, while it may sound impressive, is actually the lowest box office take of any Batman film in the modern era. Believe it or not, despite how bad the movie was, there were actually plans for a sequel that went into pre-production. But due to constant conflicts between Schumacher and the studio, and Warner Brothers' reluctance to take a chance on another Batman movie after the disaster that was Batman and Robin, the project languished in development hell for years. Batman would stay off the silver screen until 8 years when he was masterfully resurrected by one Christopher Nolan. We're going to talk more about that in our third Batman installment, which is going to drop early in the new year. I hope you enjoyed our little run through the Batman movies, and I wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching.